Today's verses are from Romans 3:25 through 26. Let's dig in. It starts off, God sacrificed Jesus on the altar of the world to clear that world of sin. Having faith in him sets us in the clear. God decided on this course of action in full view of the public, to set the world in the clear with himself through the sacrifice of Jesus, finally taking care of the sins he had so patiently endured. This is not only clear, but it's now. This is current history. God sets things right. He also makes it possible for us to live in his rightness. And these verses, they speak to me about, the fact that, one, God did it in clear. That's why we have so many accounts. That's why the book of Luke reads the way it does, because it's a research paper. He went out and did the research and study. He did the interviews. He met the people. And he did it because the guy who hired him to do it, that he references at the beginning of Acts and the beginning of Luke, is the one who paid him to go do the research to find out what the truth of the matter was. And it's in public view. God does it because we are all sinners. We all destroy. We all cause ruin. It may not be intentional, but we do it because broken people, broken world. The fact that God endures it to the point of sending his son so that he can have us with him, that's a love letter. And it goes right in line with the fact that the Bible, the main character in the Bible, is not humanity, it's God. When you read it as humans being the focus, it gets bogged down and muddled. Because too often it's seen as a human book of morality rather than the truth of God enduring through so much. When you think about how he wiped out pretty much everything at the flood with Noah, the fact that very little has changed of our behavior, and that rather than wipe us out, he sends his own son to die for us, so that he can have us with him rather than need to wipe us out, because there has to be justice. There has to be justice. Wrongs have to be set right. And when we're the ones that cause the wrong, it's why the question, it's like, why would God allow this? Well, if he got rid of the things that remove suffering, humans wouldn't exist. Because we tend to cause suffering. And so this passage, it speaks to me of God's grace. That as he sets things right, he says, here, look, believe in me. Chase after Jesus, believe in my son, and be set right so that you may dwell with me. Because the justice has to be met out. And an innocent life had to be shed for our evil. And I know that saying human beings are evil, I'm not talking about an inherent nature. I'm talking about the fact that as humans, we do evil. It may not be intentional. It may not be our aim, but we do it. And if we can't at least own that fact, we can't grow. Because that's the entire thing that God's trying to convey. We do screw up. He loves us anyway. He loves us to the point that the final sacrifice was made, so that animal sacrifices would not become rote, because they were getting to that point in the time of Jeremiah. And so too in the time of Jesus. It's why I'm fairly certain at least, why he says what he does. Because when he chases out the money exchangers with a whip that he braided and flips the tables, I'm guessing, away from the people rather than into their lap, he says the same thing to the religious leaders that Jeremiah said to the religious leaders of his time. Because it's the same repetitive behavior. It's the same cyclical nature. It's the same behavior that puts self first rather than self-sacrifice. Living for others, because if not, are we living at all? And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it is the nature of what a true human should be. Because think about history. Think about all the people who are revered for who they are, for what they did. Not infamous, but revered for their grace, for their kindness, for what they do. The ones the world said, like Martin Luther King Jr. or Gandhi, so many others who may not be the best of people all the time, but still do something great because they want others to prosper too. And perhaps that could be the driving force of what causes us to move forward in this, to put others first. This is why Jesus says the most important commandment: love God, love others. That is the nature of the kingdom. And I do believe in my heart that is why it was a previous verse that spoke about the inherent nature of that God spark in us. That God doesn't have to break our arm to get us to do good. It's that God spark in us. And it's choosing Him over ourselves. It's saying that it means more to live a life He would be proud of than one the world would be proud of. Because it's now. It was now 2,000 years ago. It's now. Now. His kingdom come. His will be done. He set things right. He makes it possible for us to live in His rightness. We develop a relationship when we trust in Him. Not blind faith, but relationship. Abraham got to where he was not because he had blind faith, but because he had looked back on his life at all the times God has been faithful to him, even when he wasn't faithful to God, and the fact that God is still promise keeper to him. And yes, I'm using present perfect language in that regard, because, Jesus did too. God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No, it was. But tense aside, it strikes me as quite beautiful that He makes it possible for us to live with Him in His rightness. Just need a relationship. So, my prayer for the day is that we dig into relationship. Because a right relationship with God helps us have a right relationship with people. Two becoming one in the marriage regards, and for just social interaction when we put others first. Yes, there are still jerks out there, but do any of us really want to make the world worse by acting like them? I certainly don't, and I would pray that none in the body do as well, because His rightness is love, and His judgment He will take care of. We don't have to. We live in grace, we live in truth, we live in love. And we remember that God died for all of us. That Jesus died for everyone who would accept Him. For God so loved the world, everyone in it, that He gave His only Son, Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah, and that whoever calls out upon His name and believes in Him shall not truly perish, for they shall have everlasting life. Not just life in the to come, but true life here and now. Life that, like Isaiah, can run and not grow weary. That mounts up like wings of eagles. That's a beautiful promise to hold on to. And it's truth. A life in supplication to Him shines, as Proverbs says. It fills the bones, it radiates. Let us be cities on a hill that shine His grace, His glory, and His truth. And tomorrow we're going to continue on through Romans 3. See you then.